Hi, it's Jamie here, and I just thought I'd make a video talking about a talk I gave last week to the Council of the Institute for a Profession. And the Council had been charged with setting strategy for this profession of 26,000 people for the next, for the future, for the next 5, 10, 20 years is going to be the future of the profession. And before I went to give the talk, I was doing a talk to kick off their strategy day. And so I was going to be talking about clarity and strategy. Now, the people in this profession are renowned for being data-oriented, evidence-based, detail-oriented, and love playing devil's advocate. My client who was telling me this, like literally the morning of that I was getting ready to go do my talk, a client of mine was telling me about these folks. He says, "Have you ever worked with them before?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Oh, they're gonna kill you. They're very," so he said, evidence-based, data-focused, detail-oriented, and devil's advocate, very analytical, very argumentative. And of course, everything I'm pointing to is kind of, in some ways, at the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm talking about formless principles, I'm talking philosophical, big chunk, high level, that sort of thing. He says, they're just gonna fry you. And I was like, well, we'll see. But I was reflecting on it, and I thought, well, so I got quiet, and I thought, well, how can I make it easy for them to come on the journey with me? Because I know these principles are behind everything, including their experience. So my job isn't to convince them of anything. My job is to make it easy for them to come on the journey with me, to look in the direction that I'm going to point them. And so the subject of the talk was clarity and strategy. I was reflecting on it, and I thought, well, one of the ways I could make it easy for them is to make a formula. So I made up a formula, because, they're all mathematicians, they love a formula. And then at the beginning of the talk, I said, now, as I understand it, you guys are going to be setting the strategy for the future of your profession. And so in 20 years' time, if your profession is doing great, the people in the profession are going to look back at you guys today, they're going to love you. And if the profession is doing okay, well, they're still going to be pleased that you were at the helm. And if the profession has run into a brick wall, they're going to blame you. And they're all like, whoa. I said, so something occurred to me. I said, now, when I was chatting to people before this talk, what you guys assured me is that you're an evidence-based profession and that you pride yourself on being evidence-based. Is that true? And they all agreed. They're like, yes, very much so, got to be evidence-based. I said, great. So by the time you've got to the end, here's my question. By the time you've finished setting your strategy, by the time you've reached the end of your strategy day tomorrow, how will you know that it's been successful? What's your evidence going to be? What are you going to see? What are you going to hear? What are you going to feel? What data will you have? What results will you have created? What'll your sense of it be? Well, this got them. So I got them to ask each other this question, and of course, they got reflective. It got them looking in a new direction, so they got reflective. And then they came back to me with their answers. And some of their answers, of course, were very practical, pragmatic, evidentiary answers, like it'll be, they'll have specific objectives written down and that sort of thing. But a lot of it was more kind of what we might call feely. It was like, well, there'll be a feeling of connection and buy-in, and there'll be a sense of humor about it. Will it have some lightness and fun in the process? And so it opened up the domain for connection, and so we started to talk about that and that sort of thing. And then I said, well, look, I know you guys are all data focused. A big part of their job is looking at data and analyzing trends and that sort of thing. And what I'd been told by the CEO who brought me in was they tended to be super analytical, and he felt that wasn't necessarily all that they needed when it came to setting strategy. They needed imagination. They needed to see the future. They needed to see a sense of possibility. And so I said, well, there's been a study done on successful strategy, looking at the great strategists in history, people like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Napoleon or Clausewitz. Napoleon did great till that Moscow thing. And what they found was that that there were two components to great strategy. One was looking at the data, looking at, Napoleon would look at he would study the general he was up against and look at accounts of historical battles and all this sort of stuff. He would absolutely do his homework. And then he would chill. He would relax. He would go for a walk. He would take it easy. Same with Bill Gates, same with Steve Jobs. Every single one of them would do their homework and then go into an insight space. So I said, the formula for strategy is S equals D plus I. Strategy equals data plus insight. I said, now you guys have got the data piece down pat. I feel very comfortable in your ability to analyze trends and all that sort of stuff. So let's look at the insight piece, because the insight piece is my specialty. So let me start by asking you a question. When do you get your best ideas? And of course, you know where that went. They all in the shower, out for a run, on holiday, on the beach, in the bath, when I'm just dropping off to sleep, when I'm just waking up in the morning, all the stuff that you would expect. And so we got into that. And then I said, here's another formula. I love the formula. I said clarity equals capacity minus contamination. And I talked to them about how there's something absolutely reliable in human psychology, which is you can absolutely guarantee that you're going to feel that you're going to feel thought in the moment. He said it's absolutely reliable. Well, these guys, they loved the idea of something in psychology that was absolutely reliable. And so we talked about that from a whole bunch of different angles. And it was great because it allowed them to come on the journey with me, allowed them a way in. And so that's how I like to think about it, is that rapport, connection with any audience, whether it's a particular group that you want to serve, or whether it's someone you've been asked a question by, or someone you meet, is about how can you make it easy for them to come on the journey with you. Now here's the funny thing, of course, when I was reflecting on it, if I got all up in my head about how can I get them to come on the journey with me and da-da-da-da-da, that would have made it difficult. But the formulae and the way, they came from insight. And then the best thing you've got going for you when you're in front of an audience, or in front of an individual for that matter, is sharing what you know to be true in the moment. So I heard Sid Banks say once, said, or I read it, I can't remember which, he said, just share what you know. And at the time I was kind of like, oh yeah, just share your knowledge. But what I hear is, share what you know to be true in the moment. And what I find is, when I share what I know to be true in the moment, when I'm sharing from that place of certainty, people get impacted, and there's very little pushback. When I share ideas and concepts, there's all kinds of argument, and if I'm sharing from something that isn't grounded in certainty and clarity and insightful understanding, then I think it kind of triggers other people's insecurities. But when you're sharing from something that you're seeing in this moment, that's the source of impact. So this is a longer video than I expected to make, but I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.